Hello and welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going over my personal list of the top 10 family games of all time. Now, the concept around what a family game is will range depending on what your household is like. So let me tell you the few rules or structures I had in place when deciding which games I was going to be bringing to this list. First off, they have to be in our personal, permanent collection. It doesn't mean they're all my favorite, but they have to be staying around for a reason. Either my friends like them, my wife likes them, or we intend to have them and play them with our family in the future. Along with that, when I think of family games, I don't think of including the 16-year-old all the way down to the 3-year-old. Yes, I know that's how the chemical makeup of some families are, but I think about one particular moment in my life. Christmas night, approaching Christmas Eve, I suppose, approaching Christmas Day. When my family would come around the table, all of the adults would stay up an extra 4 or 5 hours. Yes, they were tactically waiting to put, presents under the Christmas tree, but they would all wait until the wee hours of the night. And as I got older, I was allowed to stay up with them until one particular point, until I lost the game. That's what I think about. I think about a game that's crunchy, that's approachable, that is workable for about 8 years old to, anyone that's an adult. I think a family game is a game that almost anyone in the household can play, and it's one of those games that you as a child aspire to be able to be competitive in. It doesn't mean it's not fun if you're losing every time, but it's one of those games that gives you a little bit more bite, a little bit more chew. You can really grit your teeth on it, and you can sit down, and you can play, and you can compete, and you can laugh, and you can have fun. And if you stay up just late enough, you can realize the true meaning of Christmas. I think that's right. Okay, my top 10. Again, coming from our personal, permanent collection, this is the list of games that I know our family will be playing for the next 10, 15 years. And there'll be more that mix in there, I'm sure. But these are the ones that have stuck around and are sticking around. Number 10 is Railroad Inc. Now, we do have the collector's box here from Horrible Guild, and I gotta be honest, I struggled with this one because I don't know why it's not higher on the list. This is a insane little roll and write game where you're building pathways, connecting, and scoring as many points as possible. There's a lot of expansions in here that change the way that you will play, from mountains and rivers to streams and forests, all the way to disco lights and businesses that are sprouting up around the towns and villages, or a volcano that's flowing over the landscape. You're drawing, you're creating, and you're scoring points. Everyone around the table can have fun. It's kind of a solo little puzzly game. This is our favorite game to bring out for date nights at a little local restaurant. I'm telling you, we grab Railroad Inc. more than almost any other roll and write game, and more than almost any other two-player game that Shira and I experience. So right now, this might be our number one family game, but it's not so on this list. It might be our number one date night game, but it's not so on this list. I think it requires a certain specific set of audience. The biggest criticism I have for Railroad Inc. is after a certain number of plays, it does start to isolate itself as a little bit more of a solo game. A game that you're doing while everyone else is sitting around with you. And it can feel a little bit samey as the game experience goes on and on. So for a wide audience, for a group of family members trying to play consistently and constantly, I don't know that it fits as well. That is my number 10. Swinging over to my number 9, we have Bullet from Level 99 Games. Bullet is this perfect hybrid of a video game idea brought over into a board game space. The core concept is you're going to have your grids, and they're going to have these little blocks that are popping into them, and you're trying to sequence and manipulate all the different tokens that you have to hit rows and hit columns and complete your objectives and stay alive, basically. And you're going to be triggering these to happen to the people that are around the table. It plays very well as a solo game, but it's also a very competitive, very, very ruckus multiplayer game. I think Bullet's just a lovely game. I've enjoyed it from the very get-go. It's one of those games that I could see pulling off the shelf if you have a teenager that's being forced to play a board game with you, and you want to give them something that they might recognize some design elements in, they might be a little bit more familiar with, and they might enjoy, instead of just saying that your hobby is lame, and they want to move on back to their PlayStation 5. Okay, number 8. We have Valaria Card Kingdoms. And yes, our family does have the giant big box collector's edition with everything inside, and Shira has taken the time to organize and sleeve everything as well. This is just a beast of a game. You're going to have so many different modules to play through. The artwork is very, very approachable to what I would consider a family game genre. That's something that you'll see throughout this list, is that I'm trying to get things that are bright and colorful and friendly and give me, as a 12-year-old, something that a world that I want to explore, magic and bright lights and colors that I want to see in front of me on the table. None of this is going to be drab or gray or overwhelming when it comes to the setup on the board. This is a worker placement resource management style game, sort of worker placement. You're going to be drafting cards from a big marketplace in the center, trying to choose what actions you want to take and utilizing the resources that you have to complete these actions in order to generate and score more and more resources. I don't actually know that it has workers in it. I haven't played it for a little bit. But the core premise of this is you have a tableau of cards here in the center. You're going to be taking and completing the different objectives on those cards. You'll be purchasing from the market, and those cards will be used to complete and create the resources that you need. So if you like resource management, if you like deck building in a way, this is going to match up with you there. Moving on to Sigada, one of the abstract games that we have on the list here. Very lovely game that scales for a family very nicely because they've designed this game to have varying levels of challenge depending on the card that you've taken. You could have an 8-year-old sit down and play a very simple puzzle, and you could kind of debuff yourself as the parent by taking a more complex, harder puzzle to solve. This grows with skill level, this grows with everyone that's playing the game, and it's very, very approachable. You roll some dice, you select some dice, you've got rules with where and how you have to play them. It'll teach you some visual, spatial, kind of environmental skills as you play. Really lovely game. Cannot recommend this one highly enough. I just think for a family, if you're sitting down, you like abstract games, you like something that gives you a little bit of a puzzle to kind of work your way through, Sigada's got to be on the list. Moving on down, a game you might be surprised to see here, but it is actually in our permanent collection, and I actually think for a family game, Marvel Dice Thrones, or Dice Throne in and of itself, is a very, very competitive game. It's not one that I love the most, to be honest. I think it's a little random, and I always lose to Shira. Consistently, I don't think I've ever won. I might just be bad at rolling dice, or I might be bad at the game concept as a whole. But Dice Throne is a Yahtzee-style roll, select powers and abilities, and take out your opponents. With the Marvel theme on top of it, you're going to have this world that your family feels like they can dive into, characters that are recognizable that they can play, and it'll be a lot of fun to beat up on dad, or beat up on mom, or, beat up on the kids when the time comes. This also plays very well at higher player counts. It's a good head-to-head, but at higher player counts, you just kind of slap everyone around the table, and that can be a ruckus good time as well. So, Marvel Dice Thrones is here at my number 6. My number 5, Cockroach Poker Royal Edition. The normal edition's great as well, but Cockroach Poker Royal is going to be my number 5. Amazing game. You can sit, you can play for hours on end, laughing and bluffing and tricking other people into thinking that you're handing them a card that's really a good card for them, while totally ripping them off at the same time. This is a game that I have seen small children play, like all the way down to 6, 7 years old, maybe even younger. I have seen adults play. This ranges in every direction of competitiveness, of fun, of laughter. Yeah, sure, sometimes you moderate how well your bluffs are depending on who's at the table. Like, I'm not always going to take advantage of Grandpa if Grandpa's really not getting the game yet, but It's one of those that's really easy to learn, very accessible to play, and almost anyone can get this up and running, and I guarantee they will be laughing and they will be having a good time, because it's about the community, it's about the family around the table more than it's about the game. My number 4 is going to be a game we've talked about a lot. Flamecraft has done extremely well in the family marketplace, and for a very good reason. This is going to be a worker placement resource management game where you're building out this arsenal of dragons that you have. You're getting resources from these different store locations, and you're slowly applying them to these different areas so that you can score as many victory points as possible. You're looking to complete objectives, and you complete those objectives by getting the right resources, by assigning your dragons to the right areas, and triggering special effects based on the dragons that you have in those locations. The artwork is so approachable, extremely adorable. The production's very nice. Again, this can scale from a lightweight, easy, very accessible game all the way up to a very cutthroat style head-to-head match against experienced players. I think Flamecraft is one of those games that's going to be around for a long time. Moving on over, I was trying to think through my collection and pick a game that would be a good campaign game to play with the family. And I was trying to ask myself, if I was going to sit down with maybe a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, someone like whenever we, God willing, have our family and our family is growing, what's some of the first campaign games I'm going to want to play with them? And Sleeping Gods had to hop on to this list. There's a few reasons why I'm choosing this over some of the other bigger campaign games. First and foremost, this is an excellent game to play with, a range of adult figures. Shira and I have had a great time with this, and it almost never intimidates someone. It doesn't look very intimidating. Yeah, the beast is a little scary, but this is a smaller box with a really good open world style story, lots of tactical decisions you can make, lots of fun role playing that you can do when it comes to the characters and the world that you're exploring. But if I was playing with a niece or nephew that was maybe 10 years old at the moment, I can think of sitting down and running most of the game myself. It's approachable enough that you can do that, and letting them really make the choices and roll the dice and explore the world and make all the decisions for the game that we're playing, with a little bit of advice or guidance from me if they have any questions. And that would be a very good, very, very fun way to play this game, because there's so much of the world I have yet to explore, and so much that there's left to do. And then as that child continues to grow up, as our family continues to expand, this is one of those games where they can take a little bit more control of the story, of the mission, and of the mechanics of their character engine as well. I also think this is one of those games that you could play at 10, then play at 13, then play at 16, and keep diving back into, not only with the expanded world that's currently coming out, with the, Forbidden Skies or something like that. This is one of those games that leaves a lot on the table for you to continue going back to and continue to explore when it comes to the lore and the world building and the way that you approach the actual journey that you're taking. So, Sleeping Gods from Red Raven is my campaign game of this list. If you have young teenager, close to teenager age players in your household, I think this is where I would start introducing them to the concept of campaign games and start growing their love for that side of the storytelling hobby as well. Moving on down to a game that I really think, when I think of that idea of sitting around on Christmas Eve playing games as late as I can, Bunny Kingdom from Yellow is going to be that game. I mean, we did it with card games in my household. My family was always playing Hoof and Mouth or Head and Foot, a card game where you're trying to get sets and collect pairs and trying to, play through the game as carefully and tactically as possible, with a little bit of randomness, a little bit of luck mixed in. But this one, Bunny Kingdom, that's one of those games that I can just imagine having a group of people sitting around a table, slowly drafting cards, figuring out how they're going to score points, and filling up this grid, this beautiful map, with all these little bunnies that are claiming different realms of the kingdom. The expansion's excellent with this, if you want a chance to expand it, and this is the one that when I think about staying up late at night, sitting down and playing a game with a family, Bunny Kingdom is at the very top of that list. And moving to what I think is probably the best family game that I am aware of. It's a very hard list to do because every family is going to be different. But Marvel United gives you such a range of options when it comes to the mechanics, when it comes to the characters that you can play, when it comes to how challenging it can be versus how approachable and accessible it can be, when it comes to the fact that you can play one versus many, you can play team versus team, you can play fully cooperative, you can play solo. There really is no end to the way that this game approaches itself and approaches its design. Very, very, very approachable game. I think I could teach a 7 or an 8-year-old to sit down and play this without a problem. I mean, on the box, what's the... it says 14 plus. I just don't think that's accurate. And at the same time, I've sat down with adults, and I've enjoyed this game. I've sat down with competitive players, and I've enjoyed this game. There really isn't a category of player that I can think of that I couldn't find a good scenario or good mission to play Marvel United with. I could see an argument. If you don't like cooperative games, I can see where this kind of takes a step to the side. Or if you don't like the Marvel Universe, I can see where this kind of takes a step to the side, because it does lend itself to those two genres more than anything. So grab Bunny Kingdom, or go on a campaign with Distant Skies. But really, Marvel United is going to be our top family game from our personal permanent collection. We've got, if you've seen our gameplay studio, we've got everything from Marvel United and Marvel United X-Men, just one giant tower on the Calyx, completely filled out. And we haven't even started to dive in to the sheer amount of content there is in those games. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Let me know, what are your favorite family games of all time? Do you like the parameters that I put on this category, bringing the age range up just a little bit? Or do you think we should cater, maybe to a little bit of a younger audience? Should I go pick up Ice Cool and a few other games, sitting around the house or sitting over at Target or Walmart and start playing some games that have an age range of like 6 plus on them or 4 plus on them? You let me know. I'm not opposed to it. But from our permanent collection, this is where we are at the moment. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Let me know what your favorite family games of all time are down below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.